And welcome to our first edition for 2015 Weekly Wind-Up. In keeping with our season, I just want to wish you all a happy new year and thank you for joining us. Today, I'm your host, Donna Marie, and our guests are Councillor Ridgway and Pastor Reverend Patrick Price. And we will be having, as usual, very insightful and debatable topics. We'll be looking at the relevance of Christmas. Of course, that's in keeping, with the season. We also will be looking at traveling. Is it becoming too risky? And our final topic will be New Year's resolution or revolution. Of course, you can always contact us on info@kirkleeslocaltv.com or our Twitter account, and that is @TheWeeklyWindup. Okay, so let's look at our first topic today, and that is the relevance of Christmas. Now, every year, Christmas is celebrated on the 25th of December, and that is as a mark of respect to Christians and even non-Christians, religious people, celebrating the birth of Christ. But is Christmas becoming too commercialized? Yeah, and that's what we want to look at. In fact, somebody says, perhaps we could change the name from Christmas to Spendmas, particularly looking at Black Friday. So I'd like my guests to talk to me. First of all, I'd like Pastor Price first to answer this, as a man of the cloth. Exactly what is it that, have we lost the true meaning of Christmas, Pastor Price, you think?
Well, it's a very important question. I would say really it's a matter of perspectives. It's a very real question to ask, as who lost the true meaning. Certainly, society on a whole has really gone, with tremendous zeal and enthusiasm towards, the commercial aspects of the celebration season. But the church has constantly kept its message alive, and from the perspective of the church hasn't really lost its impetus and its purposes for Christmas. So it depends on which side of the social spectrum, or from which part of the social spectrum you're standing, really. But certainly from the church's standpoint, it's a very opportune time to communicate the gospel message.
Right, Councillor Ridgway, let me bring you into our discussion. Now, it has been said that there are actually two sides to this story, because the sellers or the vendors are only providing a product that the market is looking for. What would be your take as a councillor? Because certainly you're also looking at the political, your constituents. How can you improve their lot financially, especially at this lucrative time of year?
Well, I actually don't think it's right to say that the vendors are only providing that which the people want to buy, because the amount of waste which is thrown away subsequent to the grand purchasing frenzy of the week to the 2 weeks before Christmas, so much of it is thrown away. I'm talking about food and drink and so on. So much is thrown away because it's just not needed, it's not eaten. And the amount of over-purchasing is quite outrageous, particularly when there is so much poverty throughout the whole world elsewhere. And I think that vendors, the markets, manufacturers are going to take advantage of any opportunity to sell their goods, and there's nothing particularly wrong with that. If it was wrong, nobody would buy them, and people do buy them, and consequently it therefore should not be regarded as wrong. But I don't think it's right to say there's no true meaning of Christmas anymore. Where I do think there's a slight change from when I was a child, which was a very long time ago, is that the central core of Christmas seems to be sidelined. When I hear stories of schools aren't going to do a nativity play this year because it might offend somebody else, I just find that is a total anathema to me. It's wrong. There has been a demand from our multicultural country, that other faiths have a demand for a respect for their festivals. Nothing wrong with that at all. But there is a balance to be struck. If we are to be respecting their festivals, then it is not wrong for the same respect to be shown to ours.
The Christmas carol has been played too early, so from November. By the time December comes around, it's actually no Christmas, you've lost the spirit. So are we sending then the wrong message, not just to ourselves, to our children, to the wider community at large?
Again, I think, as David mentioned, commercial activity by the traders is a necessity, and the season is seen as a very important part of their annual budget and their annual business plan. So whatever strategies, whatever opportunities do arise, they will be exploited to their fullest potential. So you can't really put too much critique on what the commercial markets are doing. Therein lies the onus upon the Christian church, the Christian churches, to really maximize its message, the opportunities that arise, and to really try and maintain then, as you say, the essence of the true meaning of Christmas. So, as a minister of the gospel, I'm not really overly concerned with the commercial razzmatazz of it all, in as far as that's the business world, and I respect the business world for what it is. For me and my colleagues, the key challenge is and mandate for us is to really promote the true message, the gospel of Christ, the gift of God towards mankind. So that is the perspective that I actually maintain with this all.
Can I just get your thoughts there, Councillor Ridgway, quickly, in terms of people getting into debt for Christmas as a result of the commercializing and the waste? What's your thoughts on that? Because last week on the news it said some people will be still paying, come next Christmas, still paying for what they've borrowed this year.
It's ever been the same. I suspect it's probably more accentuated now, but parents are always looking to ensure that their children will be given a good time, and to provide that in times of shortage of money, they will borrow in order to achieve it. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. Neither a borrower nor a lender be.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the view basically of our panel today is that who has really lost the true meaning of Christmas? Certainly it's not the church, so it could be the wider community.
Yes.
But also there is a lot of waste, food, gifts, everything. But there's also a fear of offending others. And that is also something that has crept in slowly. We need to look at that. There's also parents who want to give their children the best. And by giving the best, it means they might have to be in debt or borrow. This is a topic that we could go on forever talking about. But of course, time doesn't permit. So guess what? Go put the kettle on, make yourself a cup of tea. Join us in 2 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back to our weekly wind-up. Of course, as we were discussing earlier, we were looking at Christmas, and our next topic we're going to be looking at risky travel. Now, we're looking at this from two perspectives, not just for the bombings, but mainly since 2012, there's been a slew of travel incidences. And these incidences happen, whether it's human error or technical error, we're not sure. But what we want to find out now is this. how safe is it really to travel? Panelists?
Very good. There's no problem with travel at all. Well, there is a problem, obviously, because you just read out the list. But from the purely statistical point of view, travelling is one of the safest things which the public, which people do. It's safer to travel than it is to walk around inside your own home.
So then what would we say account then for all these disasters?
I can't say why the Air Malaysia planes came down. Things seem to be emerging, but that plane went down very fast because they're saying that there were, in the wreckage, there were people still strapped in their seats. And that's an indication of quite a poor disaster, quite a bad disaster. The biggest tragedy that you didn't actually mention for me was the two incidences of boats coming from North Africa with illegal immigrants on, where the crew had abandoned the boats, taken all the money, of course, up front, abandoned the boats, put on the autopilot and just pointed them at Italy. Now, I find that actually is mass murder. It's nothing more or less. And unfortunately, because of the changes in climate in Africa, that is going to become worse. Because of the continuing difficulties in the Middle East with regard to the insurrection and so on and so forth, it's going to become worse. And Europe is seen as a safe haven. And we can have a long discussion as to whether Europe is in fact the safe haven that these immigrants think it might be.
But what I was looking at, these people are traveling because they are running away from persecution and wars in their country.
Yeah.
So in a way, they are traveling. They are not I'm looking at pleasure travelers. So say Pastor Price, for example, you've gone and say, okay, I am going to Jamaica or I'm going to Trinidad for my holiday. I'm looking at that. How then, if people now are going to become scared, I'm putting my life in the hands of the pilot or the captain, that's what I'm looking at. How will that impact, or how is that affecting people traveling and tourism?
Okay, I think, as David mentioned, statistics do show that multi-passenger modes of transport are still the most, still the safest way for people to travel and to get around. So from that perspective, we're down to personal choices. But to appreciate the realities of, the varied incidences that take place, I think that therein lies for the authorities, for the various organisations, for the various service providers of transportation to really develop and to increase the best practice, the protocols, all the accident investigators really invest there to bring about the best service possible. I think human error is always going to be a factor. We are human, and when we position ourselves and choose to travel in the creation of our hands, human error will be a part of that engineering project, and of course, unfortunately, lives are lost and we do pay the price. But we are in the Western world in particular is very much focusing on insurance and best practice and human rights and all these things, and all of these things become the driving force behind safer travel, because best practice is the target.
Councillor Ridgway, tell me then, how will that affect tourism? Because tourism, a lot of countries rely on tourism, a lot of regions.
Well, I suspect it will have affected some people's desire to travel. Whenever there's an air crash, there's always a reaction. But the world, as you say, is becoming smaller and smaller by the year as far as travel is concerned. And the desire to travel has always been instinctive within the human psyche. And people will always want to travel. If you're going to allow the incident which is statistically so small
Yes.
to affect your desire to go to visit a place where you've always wanted to go, we may as well just stay home. But what you can never ever take into consideration is the person who's driving a bin lorry, as happened in Glasgow, who has a heart attack, and the lorry goes into a queue waiting for a bus.
Yeah.
How can similar incidences then be avoided or prevented? Do we think we need training of staff, maybe improvement in technology, stringent security measures? What could help?
Let me just come in first of all on this and say, if you look at the trains in India, you'll find that the ordinary services are with whatever rolling stock they have, and then everybody else piles in on top. And you don't hear of massive amounts of problems such as you've mentioned to us today about, I mean, they do have their problems, obviously, of accidents and mass deaths in Indian travel. Now, is it because their staff are trained better? Invariably, the staff are trained to the adequacy of actually running their vehicles, whatever the vehicle is. It takes one drunk on an aircraft, on a passenger aircraft, to actually put the whole of that aircraft into jeopardy. And how do you train the public? You can't train the public.
Okay, Pastor Price, would you like to comment before we tie up?
Yeah, just to say that, you know, in terms of how safe it is, again, you know, it's not something you can legislate for. You know, it's the risk you take, unfortunately. I think where we're concerned, it's down to our choices, but I would really, you know, would look forward to a debate, a discussion on how authorities, organisations, the business world can really look at maximising the information that they come across in these accident investigations.
Right, so basically the general consensus today is that traveling is an instinctive thing. It doesn't matter what happens, people will travel. There's also a need to look at the impact of migration because of persecution or wars, and certainly we can actually open another debate and discussion on that for another program, which we will definitely consider. The final topic we'll be looking at is our New Year's resolution or revolution. I'm laughing because I too have made resolutions which I've not kept.
Already?
I'm sure members of the panel yourselves have also made resolutions that you've not kept. Maybe Pastor Price might think, I'm going to make my sermons more exciting. Councillor Ridgway, you might think, you know what, I'm going to go out and see more of my constituents. Have we kept them?
I think they see too much of me already, actually, but there you are.
Have you kept your?
I haven't started keeping them yet, so.
There we go. So right away we started. The consensus is we have all not kept our resolutions, yeah? Are the goals we're setting, first of all, as our New Year's resolutions, are they actually attainable?
Wouldn't it be fair to say that New Year's resolution, you know, the whole idea is a part of the fun, a part of the characteristics of the you know, the new season. You know, here we go again, let's try again. And is there an element of tongue-in-cheek in there? So from that perspective, there's no issue. From the perspective of really trying to be successful in that resolution, then, well, we're dealing with either willpower or other influences.
Okay.
So again, it's how you want to embrace the whole idea of New Year's resolution.
Councillor Ridgway, did you want to comment?
Why do we have to do this on the 1st of January? It's a very competitive day, and I know that the human psyche is competitive. I stopped smoking on the 29th of March. I think it's a really great date to stop smoking, the 29th of March. It's a good day. It was an important day for me. 1979, incidentally. Saving money would be nice. You've got to have some money coming in order to be able to save it. Losing weight, very hard, very hard. There's only one real way to lose weight, and that is to stop eating so much. And that takes us back to the discussion we had on Christmas. Drinking less. Have you come across this thing that they're doing? No drinking in January? Why? What's wrong with drinking in January? Exercise, yeah, I do that. Revolution? No, not really. Resolution? I think resolutions are, I think I'm with you here, Patrick, that they are good fun, not to be taken too seriously, and it's all part and parcel of life. Have I ever made a New Year's resolution? No, I haven't. Have I ever kept any? Obviously not.
There you go. So basically the consensus on revolution or resolution is that actually a New Year's resolution is up to the person. It's all in good fun, part of the celebration. You could do your resolution on the 1st of January. You could do it on the last of December. You could do it sometime in March. A resolution or a revolution, more to come. Thank you very much for joining us. I just want to remind you that you can contact us on info@kirkleeslocaltv.com or on Twitter @The Weekly Windup. Soon come next time. Thank you.